The EAGLES Eagles are getting on a big old jet plane tomorrow to fly out to LA to take on the Rams. How do they match up? That's one of the reasons why we have Paul Domowitch on, because he understands how to match two teams up before a game gets under play. And oh, by the way, going a little conservative on the shirt look. Where is the Andy Reid look when you need it? Dom just a downplay at Friday. What do you got going there?
They're all at the dry cleaners, Jerry.
We love that. We love to see the Andy Reid shirt on Paul Domowitch, the T-shirts on Mike Gill. That's two of the biggest draws of this show, Dom.
Exactly.
I guess your stat package is up on JAKIBsports.com. Everybody should check that out. You led with the defense, and I think aptly so against this Rams team, which has been so effective throwing the football. And Matthew Stafford, as I like to call him, he's one of those high volume throwers, and he might be getting Cooper Kupp back. And you look at the matchup, and the most troubling thing you uncovered to me is because of the philosophy the Eagles have, and we talk about it all the time: limit explosive plays. And the Eagles went up 28 pass completions of 15 yards or more in the first 4 games. Only the Chargers and Broncos are worse. That's a concern to me. What is going on there?
Yeah, it's not good company to keep right now. If thankfully for them, they're 4-0, so it's a problem you can deal with, at least with an unbeaten record. They're just playing very soft because they don't want to give up the big play. Instead, they're giving up the sort of the big play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's allowing teams to drive down the field like it did late in the fourth quarter on Sunday when they tied the game when Washington tied the game to go into overtime. So 15 yards, 20 yards, there's very little difference. They need to tighten up that defense. The problem is I'm not sure. They've got the manpower in their secondary right now to handle that. Since losing Avonte Maddox, they're kind of like, where do we put Bradbury? How many safeties do we have healthy this week? So,
and as you note from what they've given up so far, and I can see a very similar game plan by the Rams this week, I see the Eagles in a lot of zone. When you're undermanned and you have guys playing out of position, Bradbury, what's the easiest way to try and cover it? Just play zone and keep the zone soft. Matthew Stafford likes to wing the football, and I give a ton of credit to Sam Howell. I actually kind of feel bad for Sam Howell today. John gave the stat in the first segment. 55 consecutive passes. Damn, I know they were way behind, but that's a whole lot of dropping back, winging it, and then taking a hit thereafter. Will Matthew Stafford have the patience to just do what Howell did last week and go, I'll take 10 or 15 every single time?
Yeah, I think so, especially if he gets Kupp back. Kupp's the worst thing that could happen to the Eagles because what he does just fits what they can't handle right now, which is, like you said, the communications with the zone. There's just too many spots where he's gonna end up with about 15 catches on Sunday if he plays, plus the kid from BYU. The one thing he's got to do is get it out of there. He can't hold on to it. You look at the first 4 games, you look at Howell last week. The key is, that pass rush is awesome. That's if anything's going to save the Eagles this season defensively, it's going to be that pass rush. But quarterbacks know that, and defensive coordinators know that. And so the whole key is getting the ball out quickly. No long routes. A lot of slants, a lot of crosses. A lot of dump offs. Just get the ball out before you get killed.
Yeah, I was kind of mentioning there's a lot of matchups that don't look good on paper for the Eagles here, and some high-profile ones. That Kupp comes back, as you mentioned, in the slot. It's the worst week to lose Cam Jurgens with Aaron Donald there. But I can't help but feel Sean McVay isn't real comfortable in certain situations, and one is at left tackle. Alaric Johnson isn't very good to begin with, and he's out with a hamstring injury, and they moved Joseph Noteboom to left tackle, and he's not very good. Now he's out, and he hasn't been able to practice. So they might be down to their third left tackle. This might have to be a Josh Sweat game, Damo.
Yeah. Or they need to get their inside rush to just be so dominant that Stafford's got nowhere to run, and the edge rushers can get a break. But yeah, I mean, this is. I mean, like I said, Stafford needs to get the ball out quickly this week because his protection is not very good.
If I had told you after the final preseason game before game number 1 that I'll give you Nicholas Morrow to have the most sacks on the Philadelphia Eagles through 4 games, what would you need? 1,000 to 1, 10,000? Seeing as he wasn't on the roster at the time, was sitting at home waiting to see if he could someone else give him a job and put him on the roster immediately before he joined the practice squad. Yeah, nobody saw it. Nicholas Morrow would have taken Josh Sweat at 5-2 rather than himself at 1,000 to 1. Who should get credit for Nicholas Morrow doing what he's done to this point? Certainly himself to an extent, but the rest of the guys on the line, are they just creating these opportunities? Should it be Sean Desai because he's calling the blitz number and giving him the chance to get to the quarterback? Is it Howie for his brilliant genius status of cutting a guy and then bringing him back to the practice squad? Who should get credit for the fact that Nicholas Morrow leads his team in sacks?
Both, I mean, Morrow and Desai for Sunday. I mean, these weren't your typical, at least 2 of them weren't your typical sacks. I mean, on one, he wasn't really rushing. I mean, Stafford was flushed out of the pocket to the right, and Morrow was kind of spying him or just in his area and saw. I mean, he just ran up and tackled him for a sack. Another one was just perfectly timed. He waited for the running back to come out of the backfield. He came through the hole as a receiver, and Morrow just bolted right through there, which I give credit to Desai for timing that blitz and for Morrow for executing it. But so he took advantage of that. So it's a split. I mean, Morrow's. He's not going to get many more. I mean, let's face it. Going into this game, he had 4 sacks in 81 career games. That's not what he does. He's an off-the-ball linebacker. They just felt that there were going to be opportunities, I guess, and even when there weren't, he took advantage of them. So more credit to him. I mean, more power to him. He had a terrific game.
I think people look at the box score, Damo, and they think it's Lawrence Taylor blitzing off the edge. It's not. Yeah, it was more of the 2 basically delayed blitzes where he got sacks. But look, he's playing well. I got to talk to Nick in the locker room yesterday, and I never asked him before. It was one of our guests on the show, Brad Spielberger, brought it up because he played pretty well with the Bears. Now, bad team, bad defense, somebody's got to play, but he started all 17 games. And he didn't get 1 penny of guaranteed money. And Jody and I talked about that a lot. And we're like, what's going on here? So I finally asked him, I said, back in the spring when you were shopping around, did you choose Philadelphia because you wanted to play behind this front? And he said, oh, yeah, that's why I'm here. That's why I decided to come here. And look, he's getting an opportunity. Nobody in the history. This team's been around since 1933, Damo. No linebacker's ever done that. Had that many tackle sacks and a forced fumble in a game. And nobody's done it in the NFL as a whole since James Harrison, I think, in 2007. So it's been a while. My next question is, and we've been asking this to a bunch of people this week because Seth Joyner asked me on the postgame show, and he said, is it time to start thinking about leaving him in there, even when Nakobe Dean comes back? And I dismissed it. I said, no, that's not happening. Should we dismiss it?
Good question. And let's see how healthy, how long it takes Dean to get 100% healthy. I mean, the one good thing, a lot of good things about the way Morrow's playing, but it doesn't make you want to hurry Dean back. So he can, you can wait until that foot is 100%, and then make that decision. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, that's why Desai gets paid the big bucks and we don't.
Yeah.
Along
You
those
kind of
lines,
almost have to wait for the bad game. You got to wait
Yeah.
for the bad game and then say, all right, the Kobe's back.
I
Or
understood.
you adjust a little bit and figure use both of them for a while. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
See, that's where I was going, Damo, because the league in general, but even the Eagles more specifically, all you got to do is check the numbers from last year. Kaiser White and Edwards didn't come off the field. If they did, it was because they were only down to one linebacker, but no other linebackers played for the Eagles last year. I rail against the fact that Nakobe Dean got all of 32 snaps the entire season. So the Eagles don't view that as a combination position, a transitional position. Why not? Because of the green dot that you want the same guy calling the huddle every single time. They rotate guys in and out of that defensive line basically on every single snap. Keep them fresh, keep them fresh, keep them fresh. Why can't we keep a linebacker fresh?
Good question. I don't know. I don't think it has to do with play calling. I mean, it's not that hard. They've got several guys that can handle that. I don't know. I mean, they've de-emphasized that position so much that because of their, for a lot of reasons, their faith in their front four. But I mean, right now they're in a situation where they don't have a lot of depth at DB. They don't have a slot corner unless they move Bradbury there. I'm reading a story today about how great Bradley Roby is. I mean, okay, yeah. He's on the practice squad and nobody signed him for how many weeks? And I know Bradley tells the story like, I was waiting for the right spot. Well, there just wasn't a lot of demand for him. And so, I mean, if you can figure out, if Desai can figure out a way to use Dean and Morrow inside and not put as much pressure on those DBs and I'm not, inside as far as a slot guy and leave Bradbury outside, I think he should do it. I just don't know the answer to that schematically. But we'll see how he's going to play this as we go along here. I mean, that's kind of one of the interesting parts of, I mean, Desai is going to make some adjustments here. He knows his defense is giving up too many passing yards in critical situations, too many big plays or semi-big plays, if you don't want to call 15 yards big plays. So, I'll be curious to watch how he adjusts in the next few weeks with this defense.
Speaking of big plays, Damo, offensively, Jalen Hurts, I don't know. A lot of people called him uneven. I think it's got more to do with the running game than the passing game. His deep balls are pretty impressive. And he really got going against Washington. And he's been effective really throughout the season with those types of throws. What have you seen from Jalen Hurts throwing versus running the football? Where's look, and Jody used the word tentative. I think that's a good word yesterday. Just looked a little bit more tentative running the football, except for the sneaks. I mean, that's still nobody else can do it, but the Eagles can do it. What do you think of Jalen's play thus far?
Yeah, passing wise, I mean, I thought early on his decision making was a little tentative because he was seeing things that he didn't see last year. I mean, Belichick, Brian Flores, these guys had all off season to look at this tape, figure out how to attack him and attack this defense or offense. And so there were, that slowed him down a little bit. You're right about the deep ball. I mean, Sunday, he completed 4 of 7 balls that traveled 20 or more yards in the air, which is the definition of a deep ball in this league, including the 2 touchdowns to A.J. Brown. He's, he had even when he wasn't completing it in the first 3 games, when he was, I believe, like 3 for 12 on those deep balls, he still was throwing it. I mean, they weren't hesitating.
Yeah.
I mean, their attitude is we're going to at least make them respect it and look for it and know we're going to throw it. And that opens up things underneath. His completion percentage, as I mentioned in my story in JAKIB Sports, his completion percentage in 0 to 10 yard throws this year so far is up I want to say 4 or 5 points over a completion points.
Yeah, it's up over 85. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's
so he's
pretty
doing
good.
well there. And the deep ball, we saw Sunday, he started completing that. And his decision making seems to be better. The run, they're taking a lot away from him. We saw that from week 1. I mean, he had the 24-yard run last week, but they're just not there. The lanes aren't there that were there last year on a lot of those RPOs and zone reads that they ran. And he's also been told or agreed with the coaches, let's not get hurt, or at least let's not take chances early. I mean, some of those slides and surrenders have looked awkward. I know, where he'll take off a little bit. He sees there's nothing there and just slides for a 1 or 2 yard loss. I mean, a lot of his sacks are like that. A lot of his sacks aren't really sacks. They're kind of like, because they're negative yardage, they generally call it a sack. But, he's willing to give up that in exchange for, keeping his body healthy and living to fight the next down. So that's where they are right now. I think at some point, when they get to Dallas and Kansas City and San Francisco, all bets are off then. Then I think we see a different Jalen. I think we see a guy that's going to be a little bit more reckless. Right now, though, I think he wants to keep healthy, protect himself, and use the running backs if he has to throw the ball to somebody. And that's what he's doing.
Domo against the Rams on Sunday. Is this a Swifty day? Do you think the Eagles will be slightly more heavier run based than they were last week against Washington? Rams going to throw it a lot. The Rams are going to throw it a lot because they like to throw it a lot. And you look across the aisle, you see, their defensive secondary is deleted. Let's take our chance in the air. What do you think the run-pass ratio is in this game on Sunday? Is it a heavy running game for the Eagles?
I think it's going to depend on what happens early, Jody. Last year, this team just ran away from everybody in the first half and then ran in the second half. This year that's not happening. I think they only have a plus 11, plus 12 point differential in the first half. They've been slow getting started. So I still think they'll probably throw early, mix in the pass. But, the Rams aren't a great run defense with the exception, so I think they'll mix it up, but I think you won't see a 40 carry game unless they get a lead and feel that's the way to go.
The one issue with the Eagles offense, if you look at their numbers, they're pretty good across the board, top 10 in basically everything. 12th in passing, but they're right there on the cusp. But they're 24th in red zone offense. Is that where you got to get Dallas Goedert involved? You got to get a big body involved. What do you think's going on with the red zone offense?
You look at last year, John, when they finished 4th, I think last year, 3rd or 4th in red zone offense last year, and they didn't pass much. Their whole attitude of this offense is we get inside the 20. We're gonna slam it down your throat. We're gonna use Jalen a lot. That's where he had, I think last year, 9 of his 13 touchdown runs were inside the 20. This year defenses have. I think one of the things they made Belichick and everybody else that looked at the tape said,
everybody's got their eyes on Jalen. Everybody's got their eyes. They're not. Yeah.
Let's wait when they get inside the 20, make them throw the ball. Make him beat us with the pass inside the 20. Let's see what he can do there. And first 3 games, it was a really lopsided run pass ratio. I want to say like 19-3 or something. Their first 2 games. Last couple games, they've mixed it up more. Haven't had a lot of success though. They were 1 for 5, 1 for 4 against Tampa Bay in the red zone last week. 1 for 2. Jalen's only thrown 12 passes in the red zone so far for like 14 yards. He's got, I think I counted, he's only got 1 touchdown pass in the red zone this year, which there are like 30 guys in the league that have thrown more. He's only thrown 2 in his last 9 starts going back to last year. he needs to get better in the red zone. As a passer, because they're taking away the run from him. I mean, when he gets inside the one, sure, they go to the tush push and all bets are off. But they're not going to let him have a 2nd and 5 from the 15. They got their eyes on him there. They're not going to let him run. They're going to, and as you guys know, I mean, the field shrinks down there. It's tougher. And getting back to Goddard, that would seem to be the obvious guy to become your weapon inside the 20. Because, I mean, we saw that with, I hate to go back to Wentz considering how all that ended, but him and Zach Ertz just had a magical chemistry inside the red zone. They just thought alike. And, he needs to develop that with Goddard inside the 20 and be his go-to guy.
All right, Damo, I want to back it up out of the red zone because this could be a huge week. The return of Quez, or at least the threat of Quez, that theoretically opens things up for the other outside wide receivers. He hasn't played in weeks, but is full go in practice yesterday. How much of a difference does Quez Watkins actually make?
What are you going to do with Oz? I mean, I'd rather have – I'm not sure I think I'd rather have Oz in there right now. I don't know. I don't see him making a big difference unless, I mean – the occasional deep ball that you can throw to him, but does he catch it? Can he go up and get a 50-50 ball? I don't know. I'm not too excited about that.
Yeah, I say how the Eagles talk about the spacing he provides because you got to account for his speed.
Yeah.
And that helps AJ and Devontae and in theory Dallas Goedert, but they haven't been able to get the ball to Dallas Goedert. So that would be their spin. That they just want the speed on the field, which he does. He's, in a fast guy league, everybody's fast, but he's faster than most. So I do pay some attention to that. But yeah, he's never going to catch a lot of balls. It's not going to be traffic. But, if AJ Brown has another 175-yard game, I don't think anybody's complaining. So how much of that works out, the role player aspect, I think the Eagles have missed Zach Pascal this year for other reasons. And, nobody paid attention to Zach because that's boring. But I do think there's something to it. But, yeah, they probably overstate it to a degree.
Elite. Do not forget.
Yeah,
elite
well, and Quez should not have used that term. I think we can all agree, calling himself elite.
Kind of like using the gold standard.
Yeah, that was
very
probably
good.
The one.
Exactly.
That was probably the wrong thing to say. Quarterback factory. There's a lot of those that the Eagles would like back. But at P Damo, I want to go back. I'll end it here with you, Damo. My last one. Make sure you follow Paul on Twitter. Listen to his podcast wherever you get your favorite podcast. What are we calling that now? I know you had to change it. What was? So what is the official title now?
The official title now is Birds Report.
Birds Report. All right. And I'm going to be on that hopefully next week.
John's going to be on Wednesday at 6 or 6:30. Be sure to tune in. A2D Radio.
So hopefully I won't scare people off, but I'm going to be on the show. I'm looking forward to that next week. We talked about Nick Morrow and the blitz. They blitz more than they have all season against the Commanders. It's over 30%. But what was interesting that you uncovered is when they are blitzing. And by the way, coming into the game, it was 19%, even less than they blitz with the defense coordinator. We dare not speak his name because nobody likes him. But this week, I don't think they're blitzing Matthew Stafford. I don't think that would be a good way to go. But the more interesting part to me is you broke them down by when they're blitzing. 39 blitzes, 16 on first down, only 8 on third down. What does that tell you? Are they run blitzing to get people in difficult situations? Because 8 on third down is not a lot.
A lot of their blitzes, John, are they're not your typical blitz. You know, it's not like, you know, a corner or a safety coming up to the line and they go. I mean, it's more of the Russian 5. You know, they line up 5 and they'll rush 5.
Yeah.
A lot of times they'll line up 5 and back somebody up, or you know, or he'll just be a spy. So I mean, that's what they're doing. You know, I don't know why. I don't expect them to do much of that this week, like you said, against Stafford. It was because it was Sam Howell. They thought they could.
Yeah. And rightfully, that was the right thing to do. I thought it was a smart thing to do by Sean Desai. But this week, I would
no, you just and that's kind of what scares me about this game, because if he can get the ball out against that pass rush, and if Cooper Kupp comes back, you know, are you going to be able to stop that offense? You know, I know they don't run the ball very much or very well, so that helps. They're going to be one-dimensional, but you know, Cooper Kupp is pretty impressive, and that young kid. So, you know, I think this is a game.
Puka. And they got Tutu, Puko and Tutu.
Right now, this looks like a game that they could lose. I mean, going on the road across the country against a team that throws the ball well, or can throw the ball well, you know, your only hope is that pass rush just has an awesome game.
All right, the pass rush will be what it will be. I'm going to ask you 2 last questions prediction-wise. Number 1, Puka, Cooper, Tutu sounds more like a lineup at a gentleman's club than a trio of wide receivers in the National Football League, but that's who the Eagles will be facing. Under over 250 combined yards between those 3 wide receivers.
I'm sorry, 250 you said, Jody?
250, those 3 combined, under over yards received.
I'm going to say over.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Take the over. I just got a bad feeling about this game.
I'm gonna go over. Somebody's gonna get 150. So right there, then I only need 100 from the other 2. Yeah.
Okay. So we're looking over, and the spread on the game is Eagles by 4.5 with an under over of 49.5. If you think those guys are getting that 250 yards, probably means the Rams putting up a minimum of 20 something, if not 30 something. Is this going to be a shootout that the Eagles have the wherewithal to put up 35 points and win this game against the Rams on the road?
They better, because I think that's what's going to happen. You know, I think this offense, I mean, we saw last week, it's starting, you know, we saw Jalen have probably his best game. You know, I don't think the Rams can stop the run game if they mix it in with a heavy dose. We still haven't seen them use the running backs or Goddard a lot in the passing game. So, yeah, I think the Eagles can put up 35 against this team.
Johnny Mac will be making an appearance on his podcast. We appreciate whenever he makes an appearance on our show. And also, you got to check out his stat pack on JAKIBSports.com. Let us thank Paul Domowitch, despite the fact that he dressed down for today's appearance. We still love him here on we love him here on Birds 365. Thanks, Domo.
Thanks, Tom.
Take care. Thanks for having me.
That's Paul Domowitch here with us on Birds 365. All right, Johnny Mac, know you're heading down in a couple minutes to get some info from the coaching staff prior to them getting on a big old jet plane and leaving. We thought at the beginning of the year, I did at least, that the Eagles had a very good chance to go 5-0. Now, Game 6, Jets next Sunday. I thought that was going to be a real test.
So did I. That was my first loss. I did pick them to lose. I think one of the first 5 games. I had a feeling they would just have a hiccup, and that turned out to be incorrect. At least with 1 to go.
Can that hiccup be this week?
It could, but I don't think it is. I think it's going to be like Damo said. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. They're going to give up some points, but. Look, the Rams are not good defensively other than Aaron Donald. And I think, you know, he doesn't have a lot of help these days. So I think you can do a lot of things, help with Kelsey, slide him, and at least limit the impact to where he's not going to wreck the game. And I don't think they have a ton of talent around him to take advantage of that. So I think the Eagles are going to win a shootout. They're very capable of scoring a lot of points. You know, number 5 total offense again coming into this game, and everybody thinks they haven't played well, and they're probably right. So they can score a lot of points on anybody. Certainly this team. I think it's going to be 33-27-ish Eagles win.
I think
A
you're
lot
in
of
a very,
points.
I think you're in a very good neighborhood there. And the way I would describe it, and I know we're getting semantical hair splitting here, I would say the Eagles have played well. What they haven't done yet is played their best. They've not, to use a Jalen Hurts phrase, they've not reached their standard yet. They have their own standard that they set, and I don't think they've achieved that yet. Yet they're 4-0. So they're in good enough shape as they go out to LA. I need one more prediction out of you. If Britton Covey is not good to go, if he does not pass concussion protocol between now and Sunday, and you've noted several times during the week, there have been exactly 0 players in the NFL this week who, within 7 days from the time that they suffer the concussion until they're next ready to play, none have been cleared yet. So the protocols have either gotten tougher or the NFL is holding them to a higher standard. If Covey can't go, who they dropping back to take punts this week?
It's going to be Oz, or it's going to be elevation from Greg Ward. So, it's kind of like, what do the Eagles want to do to manipulate this thing? Because the other issue is backup center without Cam Jurgens. And they have looked at Landon Dickerson at center during practice.
Landon has snapped a couple, huh?
Yeah. And they've also they have Julian Good Jones on the practice squad, so they could elevate him. But remember, they got to elevate the punter. So they only have one. So they got to make a decision. Would you rather go with Dickerson as your backup center or Oz as your punt returner? My estimation would be that they would elevate Greg Ward simply because Kelsey always plays. I mean, I got to play the odds. And what are the odds that Kelsey's not gonna play? So I would, and if he does, and if it's, there's been a few times over the years where he's missed a snap or two, and if you got to jumble things for a snap or two, let Landon do it. He's an All-American center at Alabama. It's not like he, is terrible at it. So that's the way I would go. Or, they could always put Braden Mann on the stinking 53 and they could elevate both of them and you solve the problem.
That is not happening this week because I don't want to put you in the same boat as me. I still go like this every time I see Contavious Street's name on the roster and the fact that he's getting snapped. They need him this week. He's going to play this week.
Yeah,
no fletcher Cox. Maybe not Marlon Tuipulotu. They're going to get snaps for Contavious Street.
Yeah.
So
there's other guys as well, though. I mean, you just signed
Goodrich.
Yeah, you just signed Bradley Roby. I mean, he's not going to be here in 2 weeks anyway. Well, he'll be back on the practice squad, I would assume. But I mean, Roby's here to take his spot.
Yeah, but we're talking about this Sunday.
Yeah, maybe speed it up a week.
To go, then you can just cut Goodrich. You can just you got to cut him anyway to be able to activate Roby because he's
going eventually anyway. So if you speed it up a week, it's just how you want to juggle things. But look, I don't think they're going to put Mann on the 53, and maybe he doesn't even deserve it. He hasn't even punted that well. He had one good punt, and it was a good punt, but 1 out of whatever he's punted is not good. So maybe he doesn't even deserve it yet. And like I said, I would play the odds, and that Jason Kelsey's Jason Kelsey, and he's going to be out there. So I would elevate Greg Ward to be the punt returner.
And the only thing about Greg Ward getting up, I'd love to see him actually get a couple snaps because if you throw him the ball, he's going to catch it. If you throw it to Greg Ward, he's going to catch it. Chances are he's going to get 4 or 5 yards. He's not exactly burning down the field, but he's going to catch it, and he's got a good relationship with Jalen. He's not afraid to throw it to him. He's not going to play this week. if he gets elevated, he'll probably get no snaps because Quez is back and Alameda was good last week. So they're not going to their fifth wide receiver. I don't think they're going 5 wide receiver stats. So the only thing he's going to do would be return a punt or two. And we'll see how much either of these two teams punts. It sounds like nobody thinks there's going to be a lot of punting going on. We all kind of think teams are going to go up and down the field.
And I should have mentioned more, Matthew Stafford's not 100%, so we got to see. He's going to play, but I don't know. He was really banged up with that hip injury, so maybe that helps the Eagles as well. But, he's not a mobile guy to begin with, so it's not like he's going to be running. He's going to be getting the football out of his hands, but if he's uncomfortable, but yeah, I mean, look, he's good. And, Slay told me earlier this week, he's really good. And, he's one of those arm talent guys, and he's going to make some throws, and that's everybody. He throws on everybody, and the Eagles are going to be no different with the issues in the secondary.
When supposedly you get hurt with the hip, was it before last week or was it?
No, it was in the game last week. Yeah, it was in the game.
And somehow he was capable of dropping back and throwing it 40 times. So I expect him to throw it 40 times against the Eagles on Sunday. Johnny Mac, your final was
33-27, 5-0.
33-27 out of Johnny Mac. I'll have a prediction for you next hour. We'll get the guy sliding in to take Johnny's place for hour number 2, Mark Fazzetta, to make a pick. We'll get our buddy Andrew DiCecco from Inside the Birds to make a pick.
Out in San Francisco. He's going to San Francisco, then Los Angeles, Andrew. And so I'll see him out in Los Angeles. So
he's getting himself used to that West Coast time clock. So we'll get Andrew up bright and early. He's going to join us in about 20 minutes from now. Johnny, safe travels over to South Philly, brother. I'll talk to you on Monday.
I will be on a plane Monday, so Tuesday for me.
All right, so you're coming back on Monday. All right, cool. John McMullen out of here. Jody Mack sticking around. Mark Farzetta joins me for hour number 2 on his Football Friday Birds 365.